Well, hello, everybody. It is Friday, and my name is Joe, and this is the Joe Show, which is a part of the show called Kinda Right. And usually I have my co host Al with me, and Al has been out for about 2 weeks. We try to do this show Tuesdays and Thursdays every week because consistency is important if we ever want to gain any listenership other than the three or four of you that are listening now. And maybe it's down to two. Could be one. But I have, if you listen to my last monologue show, which was basically about race and basically my view on the African American situation in this country, and and my conclusion, which probably wasn't all that clear to everybody, is that the only thing that's going to fix this isn't a Democrat or a Republican. It's going to be time. And I think things are getting better. But there's been some interesting news, and it's kind of been a slow news period. I don't know whether that has anything to do with being spring, or maybe there's just not a lot happening. I mean, we have a lot of things that are put out there as news. Like this. I have a terrible memory. The problem is I can't remember the name of the lawyer who was. They went in and busted into his office, and this was Trump's lawyer who apparently paid this woman, Stormy Daniels, off. And you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. Let me tell you, this is how much Stormy Daniels and this lawyer, who cares? Think about it like this. Well, if there's a law that was broken by the Trump's lawyer paying off a porn star who Trump fucked, okay, what is it? Tell me what law they broke. They gave this woman apparently $130,000. Trump says he doesn't know anything about it. He's probably lying, but I mean, how other than just being another reason to jump up and down and hate Donald Trump, what difference does it make, as the words of Hillary Clinton while talking to Trey Gowdy in the hearing into Benghazi? What difference does it make? I'll tell you something, though, that's interesting, that a lot of presidents in the past, Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama, have been trying to solve. And that issue is what to do with this lunatic regime in North Korea. Now, this is a really unique place. You gotta think of this in the world, how connected we all are today, how easy it is you can speak to anyone almost anywhere in the world with impunity. Well, maybe not if you're in China, but you can speak on the phone. You can email. You can stare at the person on the computer if you're using Skype. There are just a host of ways of talking to people. We're very connected, and that has led to a world that's much, we're all much more, distance has been shortened by our technology, the technology that, well, when I say I didn't invent any of this shit, but the technology that's been invented that we have now, that's at our disposal, that's relatively inexpensive. I mean, the cell phones are incredible. Although staring at your cell phone while you're on a date, both of you staring at a cell phone at a restaurant, which I see all the time, is fucking horrible. I tend to leave I do have a smartphone, and I still have a flip phone. And the only reason I have a smartphone is because I would never be able to reach my daughter if I didn't have one. So I'm able to text her, which is the only way to get her. But that house that phone sits in the house, and the only phone that I use is to communicate on really is the flip phone. So So getting back to North Korea is one of the this. There's been, there's three generations. There's the grandfather who was the head of the whole deal, and I should know this before I'm going to talk about it, but I don't know how he came to power. The first Kim, and then there was Kim Jong-il, who was in power since his dad died, say for 30 years, 40 years, and this place, and then, he died, and now we've got Kim Jong-un, who is the young guy that's fucking crazy. Although he's not crazy, he's certainly megalomaniacal, and he was brought up to be that way. And this country is a country that it's hard to even imagine that something like this could exist. And I don't know how old all of you are. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember what it was like to, watch television and watch things about what happened in East Germany and trying to go from East Germany to West Germany. And, they built the wall between East Germany and West Germany so that they could, it was East and West Berlin, actually, so they could keep the East, not to keep people out, but to keep their people in, because nobody wanted to fucking be there. And it was a horrible situation, and it was the, basically the end of the Soviet Union shortly after Reagan left. And Reagan gets a lot of credit, but probably too much credit, because there was no way that the Soviets were going to be around for very much longer anyway. The writing was on the wall. I think Reagan just made it happen a little quicker, which I guess the shorter amount of time that thing existed, the Soviet Union, the better. And under Putin, we don't really know what's happening. But Kim Jong-un, or Il, Un. Il was the second one. He's fucking dead. And then Kim Jong something or other was the first one. And but this guy has been, in this regime, I should say, has been a real pain in the ass, because North Korea sits right on top of South Korea, and there is a 2.5 mile wide border between North and South Korea that is, we've got, when I say we, the United States of America has somewhere in the vicinity of 50,000 troops and, support and all that stuff and all kinds of military shit. And we're ready to go with the South Korean military on the south side. And on the north side, there's something in the neighborhood of, I've heard, estimates of around 1 million men and, 50,000 big guns ready to, shell the South Koreans. So this place has been a real pain in the ass. And I think while the Cold War was going on, certainly while we were fighting the North Koreans in the early 50s, that it was a good thing for the Soviets and the Chinese, who are also communists, to kind of run a proxy war with using North Korea. And the Chinese basically, essentially they gave North Korea most of their weaponry, and as the United States got very close to the Chinese border, the Chinese said, well, we can't have them winning, so about 1 million Chinese came screaming across the border, and that was pretty much the end of the Korean War that the United States was involved in. And, so since the 50s, this regime has existed, and it's pretty much, it's a closed society. You can't, unless you're Dennis Rodman, you can't get in there. And these crazy fuckers have been, they've got people that are starving to death. They can't feed their people. They have no interest in feeding their people. They take their kids and they're brainwashed. You think the Nazi youth was brainwashed. These people are fucking out of it. They are brainwashed to think that the Kim dynasty, the Kim family is not just their leader, but they are a deity. They are in fact this is as close to God as you're going to get. in a man. And the interesting thing, after all, I've watched Bill Clinton try to solve it. I've watched George Bush Jr. or W try to solve it, and I've watched George Bush Jr. W try to solve it. I've watched Barack Obama try to do something with it, and with all of them failed. As a matter of fact, I think Clinton probably made it worse because he seemed to have given the most. Because what North Korea tends to do is they start starving, and then they start saber rattling, and then we make some sort of an agreement with them and give them a bunch of shit, bunch of food and stuff, which isn't a bad idea to feed their people. But we also give them, hard currency and shit like that, and then they just go fuck you, and they don't honor the agreement. Well, for all of you that hate the Donald, and I can understand why there's so many on the left and the right that really don't like Donald, because Trump is such a he's not a this is a guy. People said Barack Obama was a statesman. I've heard that said several times. He came across, no matter what you thought of Barack Obama, he seems like he's a pretty decent guy. He's not going to say anything to offend anyone. He's not going to do anything that's offensive. He's not brash. He doesn't come across as overly, even though he's a very, you can't be president without having an ego and a level of self-confidence that's off the charts. But Barack Obama came off as humble. These are traits, humble, being a humble person, a dignified person. These are traits that we look for in our leaders. And in this particular leader, we don't really have it. And so he says whatever the fuck he wants. He seems to be able to do anything that he wants. He probably does a lot of lying. But I'll tell you what, he's the first guy that has gotten the Koreans. This Kim Jong-un is shitting his fucking pants. There is no question. He is absolutely shitting his fucking pants. Because the Uns have finally met somebody, and who's I think they've met somebody who they understand. This is somebody who they look at and they go, holy shit, this guy's not like all the other ones. He's not fucking around. He talks about having the bigger nuclear button and the one that works, and that if you ever get a long-range missile developed, we're going to end your country. And basically said, we're going to blow up your country. You will not exist. And now that is a brash, hard, awful way to have to deal with somebody. But you know something? Sometimes there's folks that need to be dealt with that way. And strangely enough, this may have worked. Because the North Koreans agree to end war and pursue denuclearization. And I don't think they're screwing around, because if we're going to have Trump in there for the next 6 years, and for those of you who are thinking that, you can stomp on me, all three of you, if somebody beats Trump, I don't think Trump's beatable. He will do anything to win. If he wants to, you're talking about a guy who has been in the spotlight for 40 years. And I kind of picked up on Trump when I was in college and have, had a casual, I never watched The Apprentice show, but this guy has staying power. And He's not crazy. He's not politically correct, which is, I voted for him, and I still think it was a good decision. And I'll probably vote for him again because this country needs somebody. And here's what happens. I wanted to go. So let's hope that the Korea thing works out and we can get to some place where we're not worrying about, although I don't think anybody's doing a lot of worrying, but, it's not a good idea to have Korea that has a missile that maybe could hit California and that we couldn't shoot out of the sky. And if they have anything, you got to remember, the nuclear weapons that were used in Japan in World War II were tiny compared to the weapons that are, that we have today. I don't specifically, I should know this. I don't specifically know the kilotonnage of the weapons that North Korea has. I know that they're not thermonuclear, but they're larger than Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And one of those hitting anywhere in California would be a bad thing. It would be a bad day for the country. Much worse than 9/11. So we don't need that. And maybe it took a guy like Trump. Maybe you just need a Trump every 50 or 100 years to just shake the shit out of things. There's another thing going on, and it kind of, I saw that this kind of ties into what I was talking about on my second solo show here on Kinda Right, which is the African American community, and I'm not a Kanye West fan. I don't know much about Kanye West. I don't dislike Kanye West. I actually tried to listen to rap music because, I try to give everything a chance. A lot of people said it was good. I listened to it. I can't fucking stand it. And but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's not for me. And like I said, I've never really followed Kanye West, but Kanye West is in the news. And, and it hasn't done anything that is, in my mind, crazy. But I think he's done something that's because I get my news from two sources. I go to Real Clear Politics, which is both the Drudge Report, which some might say is a right-leaning news gatherer, and Real Clear Politics, which I think anybody would say is pretty much down the middle. These are just news consolidation sites. So if you want to see the headlines of every single newspaper in the United States that means anything, the L.A. Times, New York Times, Washington Post, Miami Herald, if you want to see what the headlines are from major news outlets and from major newspapers, Real Clear Politics and the Drudge Report will give you that list. And it's a good place you can pick up on a headline and then go and click on the story and read it. And I guess the thing is, Kanye West said something. And I guess he said a lot of things. And I guess this is all on Twitter. Another social media platform that I don't use. I created an account at one time, and I don't understand what you're supposed to do. I guess I'm just not that interested in typing what I think. But it seems to have worked for a lot of celebrities, and it seems to work for Kanye West because he's made the news. And basically what Kanye has said, and I'm paraphrasing, is that, look, Barack Obama was in office for 8 years. But Barack Obama is our first black president. And Barack Obama did nothing to help black people. And you can be as statesman-like as you want. But if you can't, Barack Obama inherited a real mess when he got into office from George W. Bush. There's no question about it. Nobody can argue that he wasn't. I mean, really, the wheels almost came off the economy, and he got the shit end of that. But he was able to clean that up. The presidents always get the blame for the economy, and they always get the credit for the economy, even though it has probably very little to do with them. They're being told, they're being advised by extremely smart people, and eventually it's going to turn around whether they have anything to do with it or not. The worst thing a president can do, I think, is probably get too involved and try to, do too many things. You kind of just have to let it shake itself out and let the people that know what they're doing, like bailing out the banks wasn't anybody's favorite thing, but we had a choice between bailing out the banks or losing our financial institutions as we knew them and our world as we know it. I mean, I don't think anybody, if you really watch some of these documentaries that are out there on the 2008 crash, how close we came to having all capital and all credit basically freeze up. And that's a thing that you can't have happen. I mean, I'm just a pea hole in the snow as far as, a capitalist goes, but I need capital. I need banks to loan me money so that I can build houses and turn around and sell them and then pay the bank back plus a little interest. And if I can't get that, I can't continue. And if my customers can't get loans to buy my houses, then I'm not going to be selling any houses no matter how much the bank's willing to lend me to build them. So capital is an extremely important part of our, lending is an extremely important part of our economy. And many businesses rely on, there are businesses that, they don't get paid for 90 or 120 days. So they've got invoices that are out, and they've got accounts payable supposedly coming in, but they don't have the money, but you have to pay payroll. And I mean, so this was affecting the economy in ways that I nor you could imagine. So we gave Hank Paulson a whole shitload of money, and he basically, the TARP thing, and we were able to stabilize the financial systems started happening under Bush and then happened under Obama, and we're off and running. But the thing that, getting back to Kanye West, is that the thing that was interesting is that, Kanye basically said, why is it that we all have to, we all have to, on this side of the aisle, why are we all, why is this constant drumbeat about how bad Trump is? Trump hasn't, he certainly wants to do more for black people than Barack Obama seems to. And it gets back to that, because we like our presidents to be statesman-like. And I keep coming back to, would you rather, let's put it this way, Barack Obama was not a bad guy. I don't think he's an evil person. I think he's taken a lot of $500,000 speaking engagements from Wall Street banks, and I think he did that before he got into office. But hey, he was our president for 8 years. Is he a terrible guy? No. Was he a statesman? I don't know. The thing I do know is that Barack Obama never really ran anything in his entire life. He became president after being a state senator for a while. I think he was a U.S. senator for about 2 years and ran for president. So electing Barack Obama might seem like a wonderful thing, but what you essentially did, and I mean, nobody's ready for the presidency, but Barack Obama was uniquely unqualified to be president. Hillary Clinton was way more qualified to be president than Barack Obama. Now, say what you want about Trump, and you can sit there and say, yeah, his dad gave him all his money, but if you go and actually look at the facts, Trump built buildings in Manhattan. He got shit done in Manhattan. And if you can build a building in Manhattan and make a shitload of money on it, you're not a dumb person. And you know how to get some shit done. And you know how to get through you know how to work through some political systems and through some red tape. And you know what it's like to have to, I mean, on a small level, I know what it's like having to be able to deal with the town as far as zoning issues and building permit issues and, you know, all this trash. Imagine building a skyscraper. It's just got to be unbelievable. And to have the tenacity to stick around and make that happen means that you're not a dumb guy. You're not an idiot. And he was able to do this, and he did it pretty much by himself. And, you know, there's a lot of talk about the casinos down in New York and New Jersey. But, you know something? There used to be two places in this country where you could gamble. And that was Nevada and New Jersey. So you could go out to Las Vegas or you could go to Atlantic City. And now you can gamble, I don't know if in every state, but you can gamble almost, I guarantee you there's a gambling place within an hour or two of pretty much everybody in the United States. So if you put all your eggs into the Atlantic City basket, and I don't know who's been to Atlantic City or not, but Atlantic City is an absolute shithole. No one would go there other than a casino. It's not a place where, well, let's go to Atlantic City anyway because it's such a wonderful place. No. Atlantic City's not a wonderful place. It's a dump. And so if you build, he had 3 casinos down there, and I'm thinking he had 4. They were wildly successful up until he built the Trump Taj Mahal, which he took over from Resorts International. And he made a big mistake because the recession of the 1990s, which probably started in 88 and went through till 93 or so, it was an awful recession. And I never thought, because being in real estate myself, I mean, they were setting up offices. When I say they, the federal government were setting up offices because there used to be these things called savings and loan banks. And basically you would go in there and you'd put some deposit money down and a bunch of people would do that. And then they would loan monies out to mortgages and builders. Well, once deregulation went through after Reagan, the savings and loan people thought that they were wizards, and they started getting into investments that they had no idea what they were doing. So we had the big savings and loan collapse. There was a lot of nefarious and malevolent shit going on too. But I remember going to what they called the Resolution Trust Corporation at the time and buying property directly from the federal government that used to belong to a person who borrowed money from a savings and loan. And if you looked at the chain of title, which is the path that the property follows until it ends up where you're buying it from, I mean, it went through several savings and loans, each of which went out of business. So it was a pretty horrible real estate collapse in the 90s, and that's why I was so surprised to see it again in 2008. And now I'm not going to be surprised if we see it again. But Trump had bought a bunch of shit, and then that happened. And he financed the Taj Mahal buying junk bonds because nobody else would finance them. So he had an interest rate of, he was paying an interest rate of 13, 14%. So, if you can't pay the bills and you're a corporation, you go bankrupt. That's the deal. And that's why it's there. So you can try to restructure and maybe pay off some people that are owed some money, and usually the investors get paid last, because if you're buying junk bonds, first of all, they're called junk bonds. So if you're buying junk bonds thinking that you've got a safe investment, well, you're an idiot. And second of all, it's got whatever it had, a triple B rating or whatever a junk bond is, triple C rating. I'm not a financial guy. It's shit. So you're taking the chance that this is going to work, and you're getting paid a very high interest rate, but that chance it's going to work is much less than, say, on a AAA bond. And that's what happened. And, sure, some subcontractors got fucked, and that's always horrible, but, I mean, it happens. You take a chance. When you go to work for somebody, you take a chance. There's guys that come work for me. They do their work, then they come to me and get paid. I know a lot of guys who did, whether it be a driveway or did the drywall and plastering. They did houses for builders much larger than myself and had 4 or 5 jobs under their belt and just didn't get paid. Guy goes bankrupt and, that's it. It's all over. There's nothing for you to do. So, that is that happens in business. So, all the shit about the Trump bankruptcy is, pretty much inflated. And I know I've gotten wildly off track. The point of what I'm trying to say here is I'm getting back to Kanye West, who is sort of favoring, not, I don't think he's in the tank for Donald Trump. But I think what he's saying is, why have people of color been so devoted to the Democratic Party? And especially lately, so in the last 20 years, I don't understand. I don't see much in the way of good happening in our inner cities due to Democrats being in office. I mean, Democrats, I'm not an anti-union person. I think the unions, both public sector and private sector, more so private sector unions have, made. They basically carved out a middle class, or it certainly helped carve out a middle class, which we're sort of losing today. You can't have 9 people with all the money and everybody else is fucking broke. So it doesn't work very well. But when you have a teachers union, and there's nothing wrong with having a teachers union, except for if you have a teachers union that's modeled after which it is modeled after, say, a car manufacturing union, it is really the wrong way to go about it, because essentially the car manufacturing union works like this. It works by seniority. So, if you're a guy that's been putting lug nuts on for 37 years and there's going to be some layoffs, the guy that's been working there for 25 years is going to get laid off before you do. Now, if you're a teacher and you're a fucking bum and you're not teaching your class anymore and the kids aren't learning anything and a layoff is going to come, or somebody wants to get rid of you and you're tenured, which is another thing that people don't quite, I certainly don't understand why you give, after 10 years you give somebody, basically you'd have to kill somebody to be fired. Why would you do that? I mean, you make it more comfortable for someone to become a bum. That affects a lot of children, and it affected me directly. I mean, so anecdotally, I understand it. I mean, I had a fucking horrible English teacher, and in a very important grade, it was 7th or 8th grade, where you're learning about verbs, and to this day, I don't know what a fucking verb is, or an adjective or anything like that. So, it's something that affects kids. So if you have shitty schools and shitty teachers in inner cities, and you can't get rid of the school or the teachers because of the union that's in place, then I believe that, and the people that are paying the price are, not only are you disadvantaged because you're an African American and you're looked down on more so than a white person would be of the same age, you're also getting a shittier education. And that is not helping anybody out. So you have less opportunity to begin with, and who's going to hire you because after you get the shit education, and then there's no easy way to get back to college. So I don't know. It's just it's crazy. I'm going to take a little break here and then come back and we'll talk about this a little bit more. Believe it or not, I'm back after a break after 3 days. And, well, I think we're just going to end it here. I've said enough for this program, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you, folks. And thank you for listening. And we're kind of right. And if you know somebody that would like to listen to Kind of Right, please tell them. And we appreciate your listenership. Take care.